Well, let's move on now to our focus report and analysis, which today takes us to Iraq, where, according to the authorities, the battle to retake Mosul from the Islamic State group is now officially over. But even though the last pockets of jihadi resistance have been crushed, the country's second city is still the scene of sporadic suicide attacks. While security personnel remain on high alert, two more equally challenging battles have just begun. The first, clearing the rubble and ridding the city of deadly mines before rebuilding homes and infrastructures. The second, and perhaps the most difficult, fixing a society fractured by sectarian mistrust. Despite being driven out of its Iraqi bastion, the jihadist group is still hoping it can fan the flames of hatred to its advantage. So as civilians trickle back into the devastated city, our special correspondent Simona Foltyn brings us this report.
After 9 months of grueling battle, the city of Mosul has officially been reclaimed from the grip of the Islamic State group. But that doesn't mean that peace has been secured. Iraq's counter-terrorism forces are still on the lookout for sleeper cells. They go from house to house, searching for information on fighters who've managed to escape.
You will not be able to control any area if there is no people helping. There is no local people helping. So we start with one name. Right now we have 15 names and we will keep looking for it.
A source leads the forces to the house of the suspected Islamic State group supporter, but he insists he had nothing to do with the militants.
Did you pledge allegiance? You'd better say it straight out, because if I'm here with you right now, it's because I already know about you. We already caught your guys, and they led me right here to you.
I swear I didn't pledge allegiance and I wasn't trained to fight.
And here you go, already starting to lie.
The young man is arrested and handed over to Iraqi's intelligence services for further investigation. His mother insists on his innocence and pleads for mercy.
What about the people who got killed unjustly? The kids who died? Who will stand for them?
They were killed because of ISIS.
Because of ISIS? Who is ISIS? Your son, raised by you, he is ISIS.
No, I swear to God.
Her son is later released for lack of evidence. In mopping up remaining Islamic State group fighters, security forces must be careful to not further alienate the Sunni population, many of whom harbor distrust towards the Shia-majority government. Security in the city won't be enough to win the hearts and minds of Mosul's residents. Much of West Mosul has been reduced to rubble and will need to be rebuilt. Cleanup operations have begun. Some shops are opening and restocking supplies, a sign that life is slowly returning to this ghost city.
Business is so-so. People are starting to come back. Those whose houses have been destroyed are coming back to clean up, and very slowly, life is returning to normal.
The UN estimates that $1 billion is needed to rebuild basic public infrastructure over the next few months alone. A third of that has been secured, but many people are frustrated at the slow response and lack of clarity over whether they will also be compensated for the loss of private property. Nishwan returned to West Mosul with his family 5 days ago to find parts of his house destroyed and his entire neighborhood with no electricity or running water.
There's nothing good happening. The situation is just getting worse and worse. Our only request is that they remove the rubble, that they bring back electricity and supplies. I'm not even asking them to rebuild our houses. We just want the right to live. That's all we're asking for.
This is not the first time Mosul residents feel abandoned by their government. Years of marginalization at the hands of Baghdad laid fertile ground for the rise of the Islamic State group.
Ever since my childhood, I haven't seen anything being done for us. But this is our life, and this is how we have to live it.
If East Mosul is anything to go by, things are unlikely to change in the near future. This part of the city was declared liberated in January 2017, but formal reconstruction efforts are few and far between. Half of the buildings of Mosul University suffered damage during the battle, but apart from basic cleanups, not much has been done to restore them. And so students have decided to take matters into their own hands. Ahmed and Samir, both studying in the university's agricultural department, raised funds to replace broken windows and for other basic repairs.
This war has cost us a lot. All the resources that were planned for Mosul were spent on the war, so it's hard to receive any money now.
Like many others, Ahmed didn't attend university during the reign of the Islamic State group. He lost 3 years of study and worries about his future.
التفاؤل يعني بس تفاؤل جدا بسيط.
There is hope, but not very much.
أكمل دكتوراه هوني.
I was hoping to do my PhD here, but with this situation, all the destruction, and no government support here, I think I'm now going to try to do my master and PhD outside of Iraq.
It's not just lack of opportunities that has people worried. 6 months after liberation, security in East Mosul remains a concern. Iraqi special forces have handed liberated parts of the city over to the regular Iraqi army, federal police and SWAT teams. Numerous checkpoints have been set up along main roads, but this hasn't prevented sleeper cells of the Islamic State group from carrying out suicide attacks. Restaurants frequented by the Iraqi security forces have been a particularly popular target.
We've taken our own precautions, and even though we can count on the security forces, we have an employee in the restaurant searching civilians, but also those in military uniform. And if we see anything suspicious, a car or someone acting strange, we take care of it straight away.
To ensure that Mosul is fully freed from the Islamic State group, the government will need to address the root causes that brought about its rise. Without political inclusion, justice and economic growth, there is a risk that extremists will continue to take advantage of the ever-deepening rifts in Iraq's society.
Simona Foltyn reporting there. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by our guest, Jean-François Corti, who's Director of International Operations for Médecins du Monde. Hello, thank you very much for being with us here at France 24. What should be the priorities in these areas that have been retaken from the Islamic State group, would you say?
You know, as we know, the population live under huge pressure since a few months. Thousands of civilian persons has been blocked in the west part of Mosul, and they are really shocked by the situation. And what we should know is that it's not because the Battle of Mosul is finished it's not because of that the situation for civilians at the country level is good. You know, the war continues in different parts of the country, and Médecins du Monde, we are working around Dohuk and also around Kirkuk, and not too far also from Mosul. We have to know that for the civilian people, since few years, the life condition decrease a lot, and the access for healthcare facility decrease a lot. We think that today there are something like 3 million of displaced people in the country. We talk about 10 million people who need emergency support from humanitarian action. So we have to consider that the needs are important at the country level and not only in Mosul, even if the population suffer a lot. You know, they have been in the middle of the battle under bombing coming from the coalition. Also, they have been considered as a human shield by ISIS. So we have to help them in the access for basic care, but also regarding the psychological issue.
That's what I was going to ask you, because of course we heard that expression, hearts and minds, and that is a key issue, not only the healthcare for basic healthcare, but also psychological assistance.
Yeah, we have to support the population and civilian in Mosul, but also, as I said before, at the country level. We know that there are thousands of people living in camp, for example, around Kirkuk, around also Dohuk, and we know also that there are a lot of families that don't want to come back at home, even if ISIS left a few months ago, because the security situation is very bad. So we have to consider the situation at the country level. I think what is important also is to prepare the next battle and create the condition not to observe what we observe in Mosul, like we observe it in Syria, in Aleppo, that the fact that during a huge battle, thousands of civilians are blocked in a country like in the city, like in West Mosul side. So we have to imagine, and we have to say that for the next battle, and they will have next battle to fight against ISIS, the coalition should consider the international humanitarian right. That means what? To respect the civilian as much as possible. It's not because you have ISIS in front of you that you don't have to try to limit the risk for civilian population. Try also to help international organizations to provide medical and humanitarian facility. It's something that Médecins du Monde request a lot with other organizations. There are a priority for us to say that there are a lot of security incidents, even if around Mosul the war should be finished. We know for team it's very difficult to work there. So respect the humanitarian rights, create conditions for aid worker and humanitarian aid worker to touch more closely the population, and in the same time respect for the next battle the area where there are high level of civilian population.
Even if perhaps it's hard to stop the jihadists from using the population as a human shield.
Of course, all the actors who take part of the conflict has to respect the international human rights, and of course for this is the same thing, but it's difficult to deal with them. But at the same time, as we observe in other contexts, like I told you before, Aleppo in Syria, for Mosul or for the other cities in Iraq, the coalition supported by United States, also other countries, they have to consider that it's not because you have to fight against ISIS that you cannot try to create the condition for civilians to be more protected. Okay, so we ask them to respect this way of thinking, try to create conditions to decrease the collateral effect of the war, and also to remind that the civilian population are under pressure at the country level, and we should increase the international aid. Also in the camp around Kirkuk, in the camp around Dohuk. So we have to consider that this country and the population has problem at the country level, and not only where there are some battles followed by the media. You have to consider the reality of the country, and the reality is very bad today for the civilian population.
And briefly, if you would, of course, this means a lot of money needs to be sent to Iraq to help with that rebuilding and to help with those efforts, humanitarian efforts. How can individuals help if they want to help? Through your...
Médecins du Monde, we have team working, as I told you before, in Dohuk, in Kirkuk, not too far also from Mosul. There are also some refugees coming from Syria, so there are a lot of people in need, even civilian Iraqi population, about 10 million. So we have to, we work in the camp, providing, medical assistance, medical facilities, special concern for women and child, but the objective is also to create condition for people to coming back at home, where they will be able to be independent and start a new life. And today, as I said before, even in some area where the battle against ISIS was done a few months ago, it's still insecure, and so the people cannot come back at home. So we have to consider that the international community should improve the money for organization to work and to support the civilian, and also not forget the area where ISIS is not there, but there are a lot of needs for the population. So, civilian at the Iraqi level country, they suffer a lot, and they need they need assistance, which must be improved by the international community today.
Jean-François Corti, thank you very much for having spoken to us. And